से 3-4 बच्चे घरों को वापस आ गए, फिर आपका सारा ये
कोई नहीं आएगा।
किस तरह आप कहते हैं कोई नहीं आएगा?
शाहीन साहब
किस तरह?
In December 1999, a letter arrived at a police station in Lahore, Pakistan. It wasn't a ransom note, it wasn't a threat, it was a confession. My count ends at 100. My mission is now complete. My message will reach the entire world. I will make many mothers cry. I will send their sons to the next world without a coffin. The man who wrote it said he had murdered 100 children. He gave police his address. He told them exactly where to find the evidence, and then he vanished. Over the next few weeks, investigators would uncover one of the most disturbing crime scenes in South Asian history. Photographs of victims pinned to the walls of an apartment, vats of acid, a diary written like a business ledger, tracking every single killing. This is the story of Javed Iqbal, the man Pakistani media would call the killer who wanted to get caught. First, we're going to break down exactly how Javed Iqbal carried out these murders. Then, at the end, I'll reveal the reason he gave for killing 100 boys. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Man Before the Monster. To understand how this happened, you have to understand who Javed Iqbal was before 1998. He was born in 1956 into a wealthy family in Lahore. His father owned a successful business, and by most accounts, Iqbal grew up comfortable. Not the profile people expect from a man who would go on to commit mass murder. As an adult, he ran several businesses of his own, including a leather tanning operation. That detail matters because it meant he had regular, unquestioned access to industrial chemicals, specifically hydrochloric acid, used in the tanning process. He also had a criminal record well before 1998. He'd been arrested multiple times for sodomy, for running an unlicensed guest house, for offenses involving minors. None of these arrests led to serious, lasting consequences. Each time, he was released. By the late 1990s, Iqbal was living in a modest apartment in the Shadbagh neighborhood of Lahore, a stark contrast to his family's wealth. And it was here, according to his own later confession, that he began targeting a specific, heartbreakingly vulnerable population, the street children of Lahore. These were boys, mostly between the ages of 6 and 16, who had run away from home, been abandoned, or were simply trying to survive on the streets, often begging or doing odd jobs to eat. They were, in the cruelest sense, invisible to the system. No one was tracking them. No one would immediately notice if they disappeared. That invisibility is what Iqbal exploited. Chapter 2: The Method. According to his confession and later police reconstruction, Iqbal's pattern was consistent, almost procedural. He would approach boys living on the street, often at bus stations, markets, or areas where runaway and homeless children gathered, and offer them what looked like a way out. Sometimes it was the promise of a job, sometimes shelter, sometimes just kindness, food, a place to sleep that wasn't a sidewalk. He would bring them back to his apartment. What happened next, according to his own written confession, involved sexual abuse, and then murder, in most cases by strangulation. He didn't hide the bodies, he documented them. After each killing, Iqbal reportedly photographed the victim, and in some cases, recorded details about them in a diary, practically a ledger of murder, entry after entry. Then he used the industrial acid from his tanning business to dissolve the remains, disposing of the resulting sludge in the nearby Ravi River or in a drain close to his home. For over a year, this went almost completely unnoticed, not because the deaths weren't happening, but because the people going missing had no one systematically looking for them. Chapter 3: The Letter. In early December 1999, something changed. Javed Iqbal mailed a letter. Some accounts say to the Lahore police, others say to a local newspaper editor, and in most tellings, essentially both got the message one way or another. In it, he confessed. He claimed to have murdered exactly 100 children over roughly a year and a half. He gave his home address. He described where police could find physical evidence. And crucially, he included photographs. When police reached the apartment in Shadbagh, what they found matched the letter almost exactly. The walls were covered with photographs. Iqbal's own visual record of the boys he claimed to have killed. Investigators recovered clothing belonging to victims. They found containers that had held acid. They found the diary. But Javed Iqbal himself was gone. He and an accomplice, a teenage boy named Sajid, who Iqbal claimed had assisted him, had disappeared before police ever arrived. It later emerged Iqbal had essentially staged the discovery. He wanted to be found guilty in the court of public opinion before he was ever found by police. This detail is part of what makes the case so unsettling to criminologists. This wasn't a killer who was caught. This was a killer who, by every indication, orchestrated his own unmasking. Chapter 4: The Manhunt and the Outrage. The story exploded across Pakistani media almost immediately. Parents of missing children, families who had been quietly searching for sons who vanished from the streets of Lahore over the previous year, began coming forward, terrified they might recognize a face among the photographs recovered from the apartment. Public outrage was immediate and intense. This wasn't only about the murders themselves, it was about who the victims were: poor, homeless, and largely ignored by both the public and the state while they were alive. Their disappearances hadn't triggered major investigations. It took a mass confession and a media firestorm to make anyone look. Police launched a nationwide manhunt. Javed Iqbal's face was everywhere. Newspapers, television broadcasts, wanted posters. For weeks, he was nowhere to be found. Then, in what remains one of the strangest turns in the case, Iqbal walked into the office of a Lahore newspaper, the same publication connected to his original letter, and turned himself in, along with his young accomplice. He reportedly told journalists and police that he had confessed and surrendered, specifically so that the world would know street children were being murdered and no one was paying attention. Whether that was genuine motive, manipulation, or some combination of the two, is something investigators, journalists, and psychologists have debated ever since. Chapter 5: The Trial. The trial of Javed Iqbal became a national spectacle. He was formally charged with the murders of 100 children, though, and this is a detail that matters, police were only ever able to conclusively confirm a much smaller number of the deaths through forensic evidence, given that most physical remains had been dissolved. Iqbal's confession numbers were largely taken at his own word, which has led some researchers to question whether the true total was lower, or in a grimmer possibility, potentially even higher than what he admitted to. In court, Iqbal reportedly showed little remorse. Some accounts describe him as calm, even matter-of-fact, when describing his crimes. The judge, visibly moved by the scale and nature of what had happened, handed down a sentence that made headlines around the world. Javed Iqbal was to be executed in a manner that mirrored his own crimes, strangled to death in front of the victims' families, and his body then cut into 100 pieces and dissolved in acid, one for each child he claimed to have killed. The sentence was, by design, symbolic and retributive, and it triggered immediate international backlash. Human rights organizations, including groups abroad, condemned it as a violation of international law and basic standards against cruel and unusual punishment, regardless of the severity of Iqbal's crimes. Pakistani legal appeals bodies also raised concerns about whether such a sentence could lawfully be carried out. In practice, this specific sentence was never enforced. The case continued through appeals, and the method of execution, as originally handed down, never took place. Chapter 6: The Ending. No one expected. Then, on October 8, 2001, before any execution could be carried out, Javed Iqbal was found dead in his cell in Kot Lakhpat Jail, Lahore. The official ruling was suicide, but almost immediately, that explanation was met with skepticism from his family, from journalists, and from parts of the public who had followed the case closely. Questions arose about how a high-profile, closely monitored inmate could take his own life inside a maximum security facility without anyone intervening. His family publicly alleged he had been killed, though no official investigation ever substantiated that claim, and it remains unproven. His young accomplice, Sajid, who had also been sentenced in connection with the case, reportedly died under separate, similarly unclear circumstances around the same period. To this day, the full truth of what happened in that cell has never been definitively settled. Chapter 7: The reason he gave. Earlier, we told you there was a reason behind all of this. A very specific one, tied to Iqbal's own mother. Here it is. Because Javed Iqbal didn't leave that part a mystery either. He explained it himself, in his confession letter and later in interviews. And the story he told was strangely personal. Sometime in the 1990s, Iqbal was arrested by Lahore police on an accusation of sodomizing a runaway boy. He was never formally charged. But according to Iqbal, the arrest itself turned violent. He claimed police beat him so severely during questioning that it left him permanently injured. I was so badly beaten that my head was crushed, my backbone broken, and I was left crippled, he later told a newspaper. He said his mother fought to clear his name during the ordeal, and that the stress of it contributed to a fatal heart attack she suffered before it was resolved. That, according to Iqbal, is where the number 100 came from. My mother cried for me, he said. I wanted 100 mothers to cry for their children. It's a chilling piece of logic, grief converted into a body count. But there's a reason to hold this account at arm's length. Iqbal was a man who staged his own capture as a media event. Nothing he said afterward was said without an audience in mind. And records show sodomy complaints had already been filed against him as early as the 1980s, years before the arrest he pointed to as his breaking point. None of them led to a conviction. So was the beating a genuine turning point, or a justification built after the fact for something that was already there? Investigators never definitively settled it. What he left behind was a body count, a diary, and a story that may or may not have been true. Chapter 8. What the case left behind. The Javed Iqbal case is remembered in Pakistan for more than its horror. It became a painful, public reckoning with how little protection existed, and for many, still exists, for street children and runaways. In the aftermath, child welfare organizations in Pakistan pointed to the case as evidence of a systemic failure. Dozens of children could disappear over more than a year without triggering any coordinated investigation, because the victims were poor, unregistered, and unseen. Some advocacy for stronger child protection measures followed in the years after. Whether that response was proportionate to what the case revealed is something Pakistani human rights groups still debate today. Javed Iqbal wanted the world to know what he'd done. In the end, maybe the more important question is why it took a confession like his for anyone to notice these children were missing at all.